They continue to spar, and Ronan is surprised. She's exerting so much power at such a young age and also dual wielding. He can't see it, so he's not sure, but is her fighting style perhaps related to Mana? Maria is also surprised, as she planned to finish him in one go and make him give up on the test. She thought this would be better than facing complete humiliation in the testing area. However, she's the one getting pushed back. Is this really the skill of someone who can't use Mana? Ronan asks what she's thinking about. This takes her by surprise, allowing him to deflect her blades and charge a mighty attack. He warns her she should dodge this one. She barely manages to do so and notes that if she hesitated even for a second, she would have been gone. He's not normal, isn't he? Ronan says. The same could be said of her, as she's quite talented with a sword. She's only a little rusty with maintaining her center of gravity, but if she fixes that, she would improve quite a bit. He starts leaving, and she demands that he stop, as the fight isn't over yet. He urges her to keep her word about paying threefold. That's when one of her swords shatters into pieces right before her eyes. Ronan tells her to get the money ready, and Asel taps her shoulder, wanting to congratulate her. With that, they leave, leaving Maria wondering who these people are. The next day, they go to the market to get their money. But Maria has also gifted them some books containing information about the Filian Theory exam. She's sure they need them, as the exam is taking place soon. Ronan notes that they indeed need them, but why would she go this far? Is she perhaps trying to mess with them? Maria calms him down and says that it's nothing of the sort. She's just taken a liking to them, is all. It's a simple service because she wants all of them to pass for free, no additional fees needed. She would have liked to teach him personally, but because of their deals, they need to head out. So they should study hard, as if they fail even after this, she will be mad. With that, she leaves, and Ronan thinks that he needs to train his body and also study, which he has no knack for. But this is certainly not a bad feeling. Ronan's life after returning home was like how it usually was, but it started to change slightly. He ate together with Iris like usual, but he did so to the point where his stomach would burst. Filled with extra calories, he hunted beasts on the outskirts of the village and started to increase his stamina and adaptability. Like that, he did it to the point where there were no more beasts left around the village. Besides that, he also studied, which was unimaginable for a disciplinary soldier like himself. But despite that, he tried his best, and after a month, their main story is about to begin. A month later, at the center of Balan, the imperial capital, stands the best education institution in the whole empire, the White Tower. Asel admires Filian and how masterfully crafted it is, but Ronan urges her to not stand in the middle of the street like the bumpkin he is and move, as they will be late for the exam. He replies in a strange way, as he still finds it quite surprising that he grew so much in just 1 month. Ronan urges him to stop thinking about useless things and get moving. He thinks that since they are here, they might meet him, the Sword Saint Schlafen, a descendant of Grania, a prestigious swordsman family. He is a genius who is considered the strongest in the entire empire. He should be around their age, so he might be taking the exam now. But it doesn't really matter. Asel asks if he has the feather the Dreambird gave them that was supposed to lead them to its owner. He remembers that he did indeed pack it before they left, and he was also planning to visit after the tests. That's when they notice that the feather is pointing to the highest floor of Filian. Inside, the bird's owner notes that he isn't really used to being a professor, but the bird is cheering him on, which he appreciates. But he should keep going to repay the kind hero who saved him. This is Filian's zoology professor, Baron Fanasier, a Warlion. He thinks that he should open the window for some ventilation, as they need to present themselves nicely to their hero. Right when he opens the window, however, he sees Ronan. He spots the bird from before, but he and his owner both scream, as this has taken them by surprise quite a bit. Ronan backs up and asks who they are and how they even managed to get up so high, as this is one of the top floors. Ronan notes that he screams way too loud, and Asel says that this is why they should have taken the stairs. Baron asks if they are after his precious comrade Marpez, but that's when he notices what Ronan is holding, the feather. He finally realizes that they are the heroes who saved Marpez. They sit down, and Baron apologizes for his unsightly behavior, especially in front of their heroes. Ronan says that it's nothing, so he doesn't need to repeat himself so much. But if they would go into specifics, Asel would be more at fault since he used telekinesis to climb to the window. He denies this, as Ronan was the one who told her to do that. However, his opinion seems to be invalid, as Ronan just shuts him up. More importantly, he certainly didn't imagine a Warlion to be the owner of the bird and a professor at Filian. Baron notes that he was also quite surprised and would have written a letter of recommendation for them if he knew they were entrance applicants. Ronan notes that it's fine, and since they are here, he has something important to ask. Specifically, what this is, as that bluebird just left it behind like it was too heavy or something. Varen looks a bit closer and confirms that indeed this is a dreambird egg. He's quite shocked that Marpez really laid an egg. But Ronan doesn't understand him, as birds lay eggs quite often. Varen explains that it's not just a simple bird but a dream bird and that he has absolutely no idea about what's going to hatch from this egg. Ronan again is puzzled and says that if it's a bird egg, a bird will hatch, right? Varen tells them that a dream bird is quite different, as depending on the environment surrounding it, a dream bird will absorb unique mana and lay an egg. In an area of lava, a mighty phoenix might hatch, or in a monster's nest, the hatched dream egg will take the appearance of a monster, and so on. There are many circumstances where it won't take the form of a normal bird at all. By analyzing the mana that's coming from the egg, it's possible to predict what appearance the dream bird might have. However, this certain egg holds a myriad of mana, and it's going rampant. As of right now, it's hard to say for certain what this egg contains. Ronan notes that he really likes to put meaning into mere things like eggs. But where has this bird been wandering to lay an egg such as this? Marpez chirps and Ronan finds the bird's attitude quite shameless. Varen asks if they will take care of the egg, and Ronan replies they will. But isn't it a precious item? Varen confirms that indeed it is, as a dream bird lays a single egg in its lifetime. But it laid it in front of its heroes, so Marpez must have felt something special with them. He just wants to respect his friend's choices. Ronan says that he's fine with it, as he's quite curious as to what will come out of the egg as well. However, it's almost time for the exam, so they should be going now. Varen stops them for a second, as he wants to give something to them that will certainly help with the hatching of the egg. A while later, at the practical testing hall in Galeon Castle's main building, every participant sits in the waiting room. Some check their weapons, while others pray. A man announces that applicant 111's exam has ended, so applicant 112 should come forth. He does so, and Ronan thinks that if this guy is number 112, he's up next. But they really like to make them wait a long time. Doesn't she think so as well? Maria says that every exam is like this, and Ronan asks why she's wearing that, as it seems very uncomfortable. She tells him that Filion is a private academy attended by nobles who might become expensive customers in the future. So, she should look the part. Ronan thinks that she's just doing too much at this point, and she notes that it would have been nice if Estelle was here too. Ronan explains that nothing can be done about that since the magic testing hall is somewhere else entirely. However, he will be quite glad if he doesn't see her crying by herself when she gets back. Applicant 112 gets out of the exam chamber with quite a tired face, so it seems to be Ronan's turn. Maria urges him to not be nervous and try his best because if he fails, she will chase him down to the ends of the earth. Ronan thanks her for the ever so touching words and support and notes that he will be back. He enters the chamber and comes in front of the Filion professors, who look extraordinarily powerful. Among them, the old man in the middle stands out as he's the headmaster, Archmage Krava Kratier. The woman next to him also has an overwhelming aura, and he's rarely felt this type of vigor from someone, even in his past life. This is the swordsmanship instructor, the Grand Sword Saint Nabiros. He presents himself, and Krava does the same. He explains that he will be up against a magically engineered dummy, and he needs to demonstrate a technique. So what has he decided to show them today? Ronan looks at it and thinks that a fast cut might do the trick on this dummy. The man next to Krava notes that there's always someone who underestimates the dummy just because of how it looks and says foolish things. The man next to him concurs, but if this applicant is from the country, of course, he wouldn't know. Even if it does look the way it does, it has fast regeneration, and it's a product of magical engineering. He whispers that even the genius Schlafen barely managed to leave a scratch on his own sword, so he really wonders what he will be doing differently. The other jokes that he might actually split it in half, and they laugh quite loudly. Krava wonders if that child will prove them wrong, and when he looks at him, he's surprised that he holds such vigor, especially at such a young age. He breaks the ground with his movement and in a single slash impresses Nabiros a lot. He sheathes his sword and says that this is all he had to present. The two gossiping professors note that they expected this much, but when they look at Krava, his jaws drop to the floor. Nabiros puts her foot on the table and launches herself towards Ronan with killing intent and sword ready. The sword almost reaches his neck until it stops, and she demands to know where he learned that swordsmanship from. He asks what she might mean with this, and she changes the question. Did he perhaps see her movements? Ronan says that he did, as in that instant, she jumped at him, she unheeded the sword, and swung 3 times. Nabiros says that he's correct, and it's just like what he showed them with that arrogant cut. Did he really think she wouldn't notice that foolish swordsmanship of his? He slowed down his last cut intentionally just in case they didn't see it, like he was being considerate of them or something. He's quite arrogant for his age, but has he really forgotten where he is? Prava looks at this and the theory professors who now feel a bit guilty wonder what to do. Ronan thinks that this is just a simple misunderstanding, as he only adjusted the strength because he thought the sword wouldn't be able to withstand the last cut. But judging by the current mood, it seems like she wouldn't believe him now. Nabarose sheathes her sword and says that she will remember him and will be the one to teach him. Prava looks at her and thinks that she basically called dibs on this to be her disciple already. It seems that he needs to pay more attention to the trainees from now on. He congratulates Ronan for a job well done and notes that now they will end the test with a common question. It doesn't have a real answer, so he can answer with what he feels like. What does he want to learn from coming to Filion? Ronan ponders the question a bit and answers with, to not have any regrets. That is what he wants to learn, first and foremost. Prava says that he can leave, and he does so to not have any regrets. He wonders how he will be able to teach him something like that, and one of the theory professors asks what's going on, as he and Nabarose are acting quite strange. What did that boy really do? Perhaps a trick. Prava notes that it might be a good way to put it, or rather, pure talent is a better way to explain it. The head of the magic dummy falls off, and the cut is extremely clean. Ronan thinks about Nabarose and wonders if he would have been able to win against her even in his past life. He thought he went through way too many hardships for anything to surprise him anymore, but this is something very different. He thinks that he did well coming to Filion, as he feels he will be able to learn quite a bit. Now, only the written test is left, but it will be quite easy as he memorized lots of things. However, after finishing, he's very down and says that he's done for. Maria asks why he couldn't answer half of the test. Did he perhaps not look at the books in his bag? Asalel explains that he took the things he needed to study and moved his bag, but after hyper-focusing, he forgot about the bag completely. Maria thinks that he's a real fool and asks if the announcement will come soon. She picks him up and notes that it's fine, as the practical matters more, and with his skills, he must have passed. The tower suddenly starts glowing from the bottom, and the list of people who passed pops up. They go to check quickly, and sure enough, both Asalel and Maria are on there, with Asalel being tied first in the theory test. They are extremely happy that they managed to pass, and Maria congratulates her for being basically the first, which is quite an amazing achievement. She turns around to Ronan, but he's basically dead inside, as he did not pop up anywhere on the list. Maria urges him to look closer with those tiny eyes of his, but he says that his name isn't anywhere on the list, as he messed up royally. Suddenly, a large ball of fire drops down next to them, and Maria explains that this is the entrance exam's last cannon fire for each department's salutatorian, a glory phoenix. It sends a few fireballs, and one heads straight for Ronan. It causes a pretty large explosion, but after the smoke clears, Ronan sees that he's been invited to the martial arts department salutatorian, as he got first place in the practical. And we won't talk about his theory placement. They hug him tightly, and Maria notes that for someone who flunked the theory exam, he must have done something amazing to enter the martial arts salutatorian. Ronan thinks that if he got first place, that guy lost to him, and with his personality, there's no way he's just going to stay quiet. Sure enough, he comes from behind and notes that he must be the one who came first in the practical test. This is the Sword Saint Schlieffen. Other people are surprised that the Empire's shining star would be here, with Maria and Asalel also being quite shocked because of his presence. Ronan thinks that if he's the same as he was in his past life, things will become troublesome, as that guy just can't stand anyone who is better at the sword than him. He has an outrageous fighting spirit. He must avoid this situation at all costs, so he tries to play dumb. But Schlieffen sees through him instantly and starts unsheathing his sword. He tries to strike Ronan, who manages to block him. Schlieffen notes that if he wasn't the first, he would not have been able to block that attack. People gather to watch the fight, and he notes that he wants to see the skills that bested him. Ronan has had enough and notes that if this is really what he wants, he will be glad to show him. He strikes 3 times, and Schlieffen deflects all of them. Ronan asks if this is enough for him, and sure enough, his hand starts to tremble from the force. Now it makes sense. He got a good score, as he has shown great technique, but this is nowhere near enough to beat him. Ronan urges him to relax already, but Schlieffen is too in his head to even comprehend words, as he still can't accept that this guy got first place. Ronan thinks that this bastard is plain crazy, and this is exactly why he didn't want to meet him. At this point, he will start manipulating aura, which will be very bad, as he can't handle his aura called the Tempest Sword. He's sure that he can't. However, he has a plan, so he starts running, and Schlafen asks how he dares turn his back on an opponent like this. Ronan grabs Isel and puts her in front of him. Schlafen is extremely angry that he's using a lady as a meat shield. Can he really call himself a knight? Isel notes that he's a guy. At this point, I think that the author is also quite confused about his gender. Ronan uses this opportunity to hit Schlafen square in the face and bolts it out of there with his party. One of the teachers comes to see what's going on and spots that Schlafen is injured. He says that he will call the guards and go after those rascals, but Schlafen urges him to speak informally, as he's not the son of an important family right now, but just an applicant with a commoner status. He also doesn't need to worry about this, as it was a simple fair fight. That's when he notices that his sword cracked, a sword made with the highest grade mithril. He thought that Ronan's skill wasn't that great, but to think he would do this much with such a common sword. He will certainly remember his name. The next day, at the outskirts of the capital in a forest called Shimo, Ronan and Isel walk around with Ronan following a map. Isel asks if they can really afford to do this right now, as yesterday he broke the nose of the heir of the Gradle family. What will he do if he decides to retaliate? Ronan notes that he shouldn't worry, as he's a good guy, just crazy about the way of the sword. He's someone who upholds principle and trust above all else, everyone's role model, one who protects the weak. Basically, the epitome of the perfect noble. He probably said that what happened was a simple spar, as if he hadn't, they would have been behind bars already. Isel notes that he's right, and they arrive at the mana vein Varen told them about. The Fardo Spring, mana that hovers around the world for an unknown reason and gathers in a single spot, is called a mana vein. With its existence, mana would be absorbed by its surrounding matter. A regular plain rock would turn into the highest grade monostone, and a random weed from the ground would transform into a rare medicinal herb. It is quite famous, and it possesses great attributes. Its value is very large, and people would monopolize it in an instant if they saw it, so the Varen is quite generous to give something like this to them, only to hatch an egg. He asks Isel if it feels any different around here, and he notes that it's his first time sensing so much mana in one place. If it's around here, he can use magic that is stronger than usual. The egg in his pocket is also doing something, as it's absorbing mana at incredible speeds. Ronan notes that they will see, but it would have been nice to also have Maria here. But she couldn't come because she was busy with the merchantry. Isel notices that something is strange, since Varen said that since there's a lot of mana here, a few fantastical species nest and relax in this place. Even for regular animals, this place is a gold mine. But they haven't hurt a single animal since they came here. Ronan takes a whiff of the air and thinks that he was too complacent. He laments that things are getting out of hand again, and he urges Isel to get ready, as he has caught the scent of blood. The Hun hunters, who wear fox skulls, start assaulting them with arrows, but Ronan destroys all of them with a single strike. However, he seems to remember the arrowheads these arrows use. In the past, at a campsite, one of the people from his group explained that this arrowhead could even blow up an orc, and that they were used by an elite member of a certain organization called Caraballo. Ronan is surprised that he ran into them once again and thinks that only the bloodhounds have access to arrowheads like this, so it must be a team full of them. He tells Isel to go hide if he doesn't want to become a porcupine. That is. As for himself, he will have to do a bit of hunting. The leader of the Bloodhound group is surprised that this brat managed to cut arrows that had mana infused in them. Just who is this guy? He tells everyone to split, and Ronan thinks that he's taking decisions quite fast, which isn't good for him. He tells them to stop attacking, as he's an ally. The leader asks what nonsense he's talking about, and Ronan explains that he's the youngest Bloodhound from the Dama's branch, Ahayut. They all gather around him and immediately start interrogating him, as he's too young to be a Bloodhound. Ronan tells him to ask the wolf from this branch and says that he shouldn't assume that people can't do what he does. This enrages him and starts threatening violence. One of the subordinates calms him down, as even if he's still a kid, he knows about the Carinolo ranking system, which is kept very hidden and only members know. They should wait for the captain to confirm his identity. That's when the captain arrives, a man by the name of Viam, the leader of the small group. Ronan smiles, as he's quite glad they are all gathered in one place. Viam starts interrogating him and asks what he's doing here, as this mountain range belongs to Demir. Ronan says that he wasn't sure, as he's not really Ahayut. In that second, he slashes most of the men in two, and before Viam can react, he cleanly slashes his head off. One man survives, and Ronan says that he told him already, his ending will be bad. His fingers fall off, and he falls to his knees because of the pain. Ronan says that if he doesn't want to die like the rest, he will write down the locations of all the branches he knows of. Of course, if he's so loyal and doesn't want to, he will have to dispose of him. The leader asks how he can do that with one hand, but Ronan has already given him a pen, and his right hand looks just fine afterward. Ronan congratulates him for drawing a detailed map, and the leader asks if he will let him go now. Ronan slashes him clean in half, as of course, he couldn't have let him go. Asel starts throwing up at what he just saw, and Ronan urges him to stop overreacting and get a hold of himself. Asel apologizes, but this is a bit too much, as there are countless dead animals in here. Ronan told him before, letting people like these alive is a crime, so he should stop worrying about it. However, if Varen sees this, he will be quite saddened, as his bird is also among the victims. The egg suddenly starts shaking in its pouch, and Asel points at something while trembling. Ronan's eyes widen when he looks, as the blood from the animals starts to form into a ball. Ronan prepares to fight once again, and the egg escapes from its pouch. It starts glowing, and all the blood starts circulating around it. It's absorbing the blood, and Asel asks what's going on. Ronan notes that he doesn't know, but one thing is for sure, whatever is inside of this egg is quite special. Eventually, the egg finishes absorbing the blood, and shortly after, it starts cracking. Ronan patiently waits to see what's inside but is greeted by a hit to the face by the dream bird, who doesn't seem to be a bird at all. Asel says that it resembles a dragon, as he saw similar things in books. Ronan wonders what that bird did to make an egg like this, but he admits that it is quite cute. However, the greeting was a little much, as a sucker punch to the face isn't the best feeling. The dream bird begins casting some magic, and it heals Ronan's injuries fully. Asel notes that it's capable of healing magic and seems to like him quite a bit. Asel says that they should name it, as they can't keep calling it a dream bird. Suddenly, it notices something and bolts towards it. A Demire branch errand boy by the name of Balrog starts running away from the forest, as he saw the bodies Ronan left behind and what happened with the egg. That's when he notices that the dream bird is towards him, and in that moment of carelessness, he trips, causing him to fall. The dream bird starts draining his blood through his knee, which looks very painful, but Ronan comes and tells it to stop, as it will kill him if this continues. He also gives it the name, Sita, which it seems to like. Balrog wonders if this guy is the owner of this beast, and Ronan asks if he's alright, calling him by his name. Balrog notes that he is and thanks him for saving his life, but how does he know his name? Ronan pulls his sword out and notes that he doesn't need to know that. He didn't think they would meet like this, but it's nice that they finally do. This was a dear comrade to him in the past who is now just a mere Aeon boy, which amuses Ronan quite a bit. But getting to the point, he needs him to do something, and for his information, he can't say no. Later that day, Ronan plays around with some cash he made by selling some of the water from the Mana vein to Maria's father, who gave them quite a large amount of money for it. Ronan notes that they are indebted to Varen now, and they did want to thank him, but he went on a business trip suddenly, which is quite unfortunate. However, in addition to the job he assigned, Ballas, the map he received from that bloodhound, is quite useful. He also instilled so much fear in Ballas that he wouldn't think of betraying him. Asel asks if he wants to buy something with the money, and Ronan thinks that the entrance ceremony will be taking place soon, so it seems that he does have something. A few days later, Iris arrives in the city, which she likes quite a bit. Ronan greets her, noting that she must be quite tired from the trip, and asks if something happened while he was gone. Iris notes that she should be the one to ask that, as she was quite surprised when a high-class carriage popped up in front of their house suddenly. Also, why has he lost so much weight? Is he perhaps not eating properly? Ronan notes that he's eating well enough, and Iris spots Sita, who salutes her. Ronan notes that they are just traveling together because of a few circumstances, but they need to hurry, as he's going to be busy with the academy once he enters but would like to do something beforehand at a clothes shop. Iris says that she understands that he's got money and is carefree because he also got a scholarship. But isn't this a bit too much? He talks with the store manager, and Iris continues, as these are way too many gifts. Ronan says that it's not that much, and it's about time she would benefit from all the hard work she did to raise him. This statement touches Iris's heart, and she screams that she has the kindest brother in the world. They finish shopping, and Ronan says that they will go to a few workshops, as he needs to repair his sword thanks to a certain someone. That certain someone pops up suddenly, which shocks Ronan and Kal a lot. Ronan asks what he's doing here, and Schlein says that he came to order a new sword, and that's when he spotted him, so he decided to wait until he came out, so he should stop misunderstanding things so easily. Ronan pulls out his sword and knows that because of him, his sword is in a poor state. Does he really want to go for another round? Schleifen notes that it's not a bad idea at all, but Iris gets in front of them and demands that Ronan stops using such foul language. He tries to talk back, but she doesn't let him, and she turns to Schlafen to apologize. At that moment, the most influential young man in the Empire's shining star falls in love at first sight. She continues to apologize, but while blushing, he says that it's because of his lack of tackiness, so a lady such as herself shouldn't take the responsibility. She grabs his hands and notes that she's quite glad Ronan has a friend like him. Ronan just stares, as he's quite stupefied because of the situation. Schlafen tells him that he will compensate for the broken sword, and while he doesn't have any gold, they can have this, his family's proof of identification. Ronan is quite shocked that he would just give out something like this, and Schlafen explains that if they are going to get a sword, they should go to the blacksmith on the western end, as that place has hundreds of years of history, and they will surely be able to enter if they give them that. With that, he leaves, and Ronan is still shocked. With that proof of identification, one could buy most villages. The next day at the entrance ceremony, Kra welcomes the freshmen of class 787 to the school. He talks about their limitless potential and the education they will receive here, but most of all, he congratulates them for their abilities. Ronan thinks that this is quite boring, but things like this aren't bad from time to time, as his sister seems to be liking it. Krava snaps his fingers, and a strange glow envelops the students. The students are all shocked as the sky is seemingly shattering out of nowhere with a large blue flash. They are all transported into an arena. Ronan wonders if Krava really teleported everyone with just a snap of his fingers. Krava tells them that now since everyone is here, they should start the meeting between their seniors and juniors. Thanks for watching. See you soon.